The main talking point coming out of Selection Sunday locally is that North Carolina, didn't make it. They were one of the last 4 teams out, or the first 4 out. And with a quickness, like the minute the selection show was over, they had the tweet ready to go with a quote from Hubert Davis saying, yeah, no, we didn't reach our goals this year, so we're shutting this thing down. We'll see y'all next year. And they're not going to the NIT. I'll start by saying this, Joe. I appreciated the honesty of North Carolina and specifically Hubert Davis. This is not why I'm gonna read between the lines here. I'll do it through the fans later. Boop, beep, boop, bop, bop, beep. This is not why we came back. This is not why these guys ran it back. We wanted to win the championship. That is not happening since we're not in the NCAA tournament. We were not interested in winning the NIT championship. And now I got to focus on roster management with the portal opening up today. See y'all next season. That's how I read it, and I appreciated the honesty from Hubert Davis.
The game of college basketball has changed dramatically since North Carolina was last in the NIT. Even if you're a pie in the skyer and think somehow magically, if they win the NIT, it'll carry over to next year. Oh, and if Armando Bacot and Caleb Love don't want to play, well, just let Jalen Washington and DeMarco Dunn play. And it's like, there is one thing North Carolina basketball has unequivocally proved this year. There is no carryover from year A to year B. No. If you can't figure that out after watching a team go from 3 points to winning a national championship to being preseason number 1 to not even in the field,
careful with the mic,
then I got nothing for you. Do you know what this is? This is the definition of displaced anger. All of the people on my Facebook page that are Carolina fans, all the people on my Twitter timeline that are Carolina fans, you're mad that Carolina didn't get in the NCAA tournament. You're mad the season turned out to be a colossal disappointment and a colossal failure. That's what you're mad at. You're not mad that the team, oh my God, he said on the day that he was hired, we're North Carolina and we're going to show up. How about this? Shut up. All right? You don't want to see Carolina play in the NIT. You know why? Because if I had $4 to rub together, I would buy NIT participant T-shirts, and I'd sell 8 bazillion of them. That's what I would do. And State fans would buy all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like Carolina
and
fans
so
are
would
buy
Duke
them.
fans.
Right.
Okay?
Everybody else making
so
fun
you
of it.
don't want that. This team has had enough. Let it be over. Just let this disaster, this Titanic of a season be over. Let Jack sink to the bottom of the Atlantic. Don't go looking for the necklace. Rose is dead too. It's done. Why do you want to see them play Pepperdine in the NIT? You don't. I promise you.
Yeah.
It will bring you no joy. Don't get me started on this either. Oh, it's not the Carolina way. Get out of here. Here are the last 10 NIT champions. You ready? Because here's a thought. Back in the day, it was Dave Odom, right? Wake Forest, South Carolina, used to love to make the NIT, win the NIT.
Owned the NIT.
We're going to come back next year after winning the NIT. We're going to have everybody back, and we're going to be in the Final Four next year. We're going to be in a real tournament next year. Stanford, Johnny Dawkins won the NIT twice in the last 10 years. Where's Johnny Dawkins now? Not at Stanford.
Yeah, not at Stanford.
Never made the tournament, NCAA tournament after winning the NIT. Minnesota, little Ricky Pitino won the NIT at Minnesota. Didn't make the tournament the next year. Penn State, Pat Chambers. Oh, man, Penn State. Sleeping Giant.
They took Purdue to the brink on Sunday.
Sleeping Giant.
Yeah.
That coach, gone.
Yeah.
Okay? There are some examples. Memphis made the NIT, won the NIT in 21. They made the tournament last year. They won 1 game.
Yeah.
That's what this gets you now. There is no continuity in college basketball anymore. There's no guarantee that year 2 will start where year 1 ends. So this antiquated concept of go out there and do it for old University U, give me a break. It's not what college basketball is anymore, and the sooner you wrap your brain around this, the better off you're going to be.
There's also a couple of other factors at play here. Some of it is misremembering how things have happened in the past. Let's tackle that one first before I move on.
Because I misremember 2010, that's for sure.
I did too. But I think my overall point about 2010 versus now is still valid. In 2010, they went to the NIT. They're coming off a championship season in 2009. They lose a bunch of guys. They got some holdovers like Deion Thompson and Marcus Ginyard. But from what I remember, that season was a little contentious because the young guys and the old guys didn't exactly mesh. And a lot of fans, if I remember correctly, were upset that Roy Williams would not just give to the young guys to give them minutes.
So that freshman class was the Ware twins. It was Dexter Strickland, John Henson, Leslie McDonald, and Ed Davis was a sophomore, but he had some injury issues. So did Tyler Zeller with that. That team just had some injury issues and never really got it all
Wasn't
together.
Larry Drew on that squad too?
He was. He was a sophomore.
As a sophomore, okay. So, but the point is, it was a transitionary season for the Tar Heels. Mm-hmm. And while, if I remember correctly, they didn't want to go to the NIT, but Roy Williams being Roy Williams was like, fine. And Brownlow reminded me of this yesterday while doing the Panic Room. He was almost embarrassed that they kept winning, and they went all the way to the championship. They went to the championship game, right? Mm-hmm. So
lost to Brian Gregory in Dayton.
And honestly, you could look at 2010 as though how most of us treat bowl games in football. It's the reps. Right, it's the reps. That's the best case argument.
Sure.
But again, two things were true about that time. College basketball was wholly different at that time. We didn't have the roster management that coaches have to deal with today with the transfer portal and everything else. And the circumstances and context around those teams was completely different too. This team was supposed to win a championship. The analogous is not, oh, they went to the NIT too. It's no. In 08 to 09, they ran it back, won the title. In 16-17, it was the redemption. They got back. They won the title. That's what this group was supposed to be. Not a, hey, let's see how far we can take this and build towards next year. No, this was the year, which gets to the larger point. As you were mentioning, people are angry, and they don't know what to do with those feelings. So they're looking for something to get angry over because they're afraid that they might expose themselves by getting angry at the real issue. And this is where I think things are true. I think this is what's really going on here. There was already a contingent of people that did not like Hubert Davis to begin with. We saw this last year, and we argued with people last year when they were saying, he's not the guy, he's not the guy, he's not the guy. Look at what Wes Miller is doing! What? Bubba should have stepped in! Bubba learned real quick. No, this is what the family wanted. And it wasn't working out early. Of course, we know the rest is history. And now we're here. It's almost in a weird accelerated state that Kevin Keatts is dealing with at NC State. If they don't go on a run in the NCAA tournament, the people who were already convinced Kevin Keatts isn't the guy are going to come right back out and tell you, this is what I've been telling you about Kevin Keatts' teams. Look at this squad, and they couldn't get further than X. I'm telling you, that's going to happen if they don't get to the Sweet 16. So this is what's happening with Carolina now. The people who were convinced that Hubert's not the guy are being emboldened by the fact that they didn't make the tournament, and then now they're finding other reasons to hate it. Oh, you don't go? That's not the Carolina way. Okay, so let's get to the other side of it. Let's say they do go. Nobody shows up, and they get run out like Kentucky did with Robert Morris. How's that going to go over with Carolina fans? Well, then they get mad at that again. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you really want to go super nerdy, shout out to my Star Trek people out there, it's the Kobayashi Maru. There is a no-win scenario unless you literally hack the system, and there's no way to hack the system. And then there gets to the other part. I think some of what you're seeing right now isn't necessarily coming from Carolina fans, because there are rational Carolina fans out there. You know what people are ultimately mad at? The people who don't have any vested interest in Carolina basketball. You know what they really wanted, right? They wanted a walk of shame. That's what they wanted. They wanted to point and laugh at Carolina. Oh, you went from the preseason number one and all the hype to look at you guys playing at Carmichael, if that, or a half-empty Dean Smith Center. It's the walk of shame. Or, in other ways, shout out to Doc Heel Fire on Twitter, Doc Kennedy, who called it a perp walk. They just want the show. They want the embarrassment for North Carolina because they've been humbled. That's what you want. So I think it was the right call to not go to the NIT. And this gets back to your point, Joe, about how college basketball is not where it was in 2010. You know what Hubert Davis's biggest concern right now? It's not winning NIT games. It's who's coming back, who do you want back, which I think is a bigger question. And then the other trick, is Carolina equipped to play this game that college basketball is now? Not just from identifying transfers that'll be successful. You saw what happened at Pitt. You saw what happened at State. You've seen what's happened with Steve Forbes. You've seen what's happened at other places. The track record so far for Hubert Davis and transfers isn't so hot. You almost get like half credit for Brady Manick because Dawson Garcia left and the rest is history. But this year it didn't pan out with Pete Nance, unfortunately. And that's not a knock on Pete Nance. It just didn't work out. So what's the track record? And this is something that you've alluded to. Are you willing to play the NIL game the way it's being played, or are you going to try to play it some Carolina way? Right? So that's what's at play right now for North Carolina. It is not a great, they're in a not a great spot right now. And all the other things and the reaction to it are a reflection of how people feel about Carolina basketball right now. And I'll close by saying this. What we're seeing right now, we've seen before because we've been here for so freaking long. You know the vibes I'm getting right now, Joe? I'm getting 2010 vibes, not just from the NIT, but what happened between Duke and Carolina. In 2009, they won a championship, and people were convinced that Carolina was about to boat race Duke in the rivalry. Boat race them. And the last time we saw it, it was Caleb Love getting a shot over Mark Williams, and the rivalry was over. No. A chapter in the rivalry was over. You can always point to that as a trump card for fan conversations, but the programs continue, and there's a little bit of freak out taking place right now because we've seen this before. No! That was supposed to be it! Duke was supposed to be done! And damn it, did Coach K get it right? Oh, crap. That's the other existential crisis that exists right now. And if you don't believe me, be honest with yourself. That's what's going on.